Welcome back to the Uncle Bob Crypto Podcast 20. I'm with Paul McNeil, the crypto curator. Paul McNeil is the owner at thecryptocurator.com. Is that right?
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
A speaker, brand evangelist, and technologist. McNeil spent the earlier part of his career serving in the United States Navy Submarine Force, working in communications. After 10 years serving his country, he held leadership positions at the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, the DTRA, overseeing the global wireless device program. He co-founded a content creation startup, which grew rapidly and was recently acquired. He was an early adopter of Bitcoin, becoming aware of it in 2011. Wow. And has since continued to monitor the developments of blockchain technology daily. Mentoring young entrepreneurs is a passion of his, and through the Next Gen Summit, Paul works with groups of young entrepreneurs daily and is currently the business development advisor at Vineteq. Being on the cutting edge of technology means everything to him. He has a passion to help businesses leverage and innovate technologies to accelerate their growth. He currently resides in Dallas, Texas. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Hey, thanks for having me, Uncle Bob. I appreciate it.
So I tried to whittle that all down into like a bite-sized chunk, and it comes out like this: defend, serve, and protect, grow, mentor, teach, learn, innovate, leverage, accelerate, love, work, wine, maybe, the cutting edge, passion, Bitcoin.
Yes, that nailed it. That nailed it all.
Okay, maybe I'll just throw a couple of those words out to you. What does defend, serve, and protect mean? You are served for 10 years. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I did. When I got out of high school, really didn't know too much about what I was going to do in life. And I spent the earlier part of my years after high school working in fast food restaurants. And so military came, saw me when I was at work one day in the mall. They were doing their recruiting efforts, and they snatched me up. And I tell you, it was probably the best decision I made in my life. Spending 10 years in the Navy taught me a lot of discipline, drive, leadership, the whole 9 yards. So I enjoyed doing it. I served on 3 different nuclear submarines, 2 on the Pacific side and 1 on the Atlantic side. So I got a chance to sort of sail the 7 seas, so to speak.
Wow. And what was the? I'll be honest with you. A friend of mine sent me a video recently. It kind of it's changed a little bit the way I do things. It was about how this Navy SEAL, he's doing a speech, and he says the most important thing, the first thing you learn in the Army is making your bed.
That's true. Listen, there really is something about making your bed the first thing you get up in the morning, because it gives you that sense of accomplishment that you've got something done. Now, I'll tell you, spending 10 years in the Navy, it would be nice for me to do it every day. Some days I don't do it. But most of the time, I will say that making that bed is important.
Cool. Well, let's move on. Innovate, leverage, accelerate. What do those words mean to you?
It means a lot, and again, I lend a lot of my success to trying to be on that cutting edge and looking toward innovation and watching things develop. There's a great book called Strength Finders 2.0. It was done by, and I'm going to forget the organization that put it together, but I believe the gentleman who wrote the book his last name is Roth, but Tom Roth, as a matter of fact. But in this book, it talks about your top 5 strengths. And so when I did that exam, and it's a little questionnaire, you go through, you answer, like, I think 100 questions. They come back and they say, here's your top 5 strengths. And one of mine was futuristic is what it's called, futuristic. And it's for those people who like to sort of peer over the horizon and see what's coming next. And that's what I've always done in my life. I always enjoyed being on that cutting edge, looking over that horizon, see what's coming next, and then sort of telling everybody else about it as it comes along.
Interesting. Almost, and also the first, not the first one to surf the wave.
Yes,
one
yes.
of the first ones, or watching,
Yes.
being the next one is along. Okay, love work. And the reason I put wine is that you are an advisor at Vineteq.
Yes.
Is that because of a love of wine?
I do love wine. Wine is great. But it more came out of the Next Gen Summit, incredible community of young entrepreneurs. And I have this desire to help the young entrepreneurs succeed. And so I will let people know I'm really good at that very early stage of things. When you begin to get further down the line, maybe not so much. But anyway, this team of young entrepreneurs approached me and said, hey, listen, we need someone to sort of give us some guidance and help us out and develop this. And so I jumped right on board. And it's pronounced Vineteq, but Vineteq, those guys, they have created a sort of an automated system to help vineyards and vineyard owners with their spray programs. Most vineyards, almost all vineyards, they have to worry about pests, disease, weeds, that sort of thing. So they use chemicals to spray for those things. So trying to decide what chemical to spray at what time, this platform is going to help those vineyards do that a lot faster and easier.
Interesting. Okay, and it's interesting also that the last two words are passion and Bitcoin.
Yes.
Can you go into that?
It is. So, passion is a very interesting word. And I look at it as that thing that you do, even if it kills you. And so that's sort of the way I look at it. In Bitcoin, I came across it, like you said earlier, in 2011. I was a very, very lucky person to stumble across it. And I think, and as much as I can remember, it was either, so I live on Twitter. And everybody that probably knows me know that I am constantly on Twitter. And either I came across Trace Mayer or Max Kaiser, and they were talking about Bitcoin. And when I first heard it, I was like, this is, weird, it's strange. But the more I listen and the more I tune in, as they always say, down the rabbit hole you go. And I've never come out since. It's been amazing.
Wow. Yeah, it is amazing. I'm down the rabbit hole. I think once you get bit in crypto, you can't get unbit.
No, you can't.
Okay, you've sent me the latest copy of the Crypto Curator. Mm-hmm. It's a really, really informative newsletter. Could I call it that? A newsletter?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Who would really benefit getting this in their inbox?
Yeah, so this has went through several different iterations, so to speak. I would say the person that could benefit the most would be someone like yourself, right? The podcasters that are out there, researchers that are looking for high quality content that's current and relevant. The best thing that I can sort of equate myself to, don't want to equate myself too close to it, but Drudge Report is a website that curates news every day. Most of it is political. But he provides you the most relevant, and he tries to make certain articles stand out that you'll pay attention to them. And that's sort of what I've done. When I first came into the crypto space, my former company, which was called Intuition, it was a news curation company, and we curated most of the news for all of Capitol Hill, part of the White House, and Fortune 500 companies. And so what I learned in doing that business, and again, that wasn't my background. My business partner was a whiz at it. He was a communication director. What I learned is that most organizations, specifically enterprise organizations, Fortune 500 type companies, and Capitol Hill, they operate off of the news cycle. And so understanding what's happening in the news was huge. And so when I looked at all the newsletters that were out there, a lot of them are great. Even if you go to my website, you'll see I've curated a lot of those newsletters because I think they are great. Anthony Pompliano, one from Marty Bent. There's a number of them that are really, really good, but they weren't comprehensive. And so with Intuition, we provided a comprehensive brief. We would tell the committee on Capitol Hill or the Fortune 500 company, we would say, here's all the news about you, your mentions. Here's the news about your competitors. And then here's the news about the industry. That way, when the C-level executive would come into the C-suite, they would be able to have a conversation in the morning meeting and say, hey, this is what's going on, and I know what's happening. My brief, I'm trying to do the exact same thing. I want folks in crypto to understand all aspects. So whether that's exchanges, wallets, crypto custody, whether that's hacks, tax, scams, whether that's the market itself, a technical analysis, it could be acceptance and adoption, you name it. I've tried to curate that news every day and to provide that comprehensive look.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I'll be honest with you, and I want to be on there every day.
Thanks.
It really, because it covers absolutely everything. Okay, so I thought we'd pick 2 or 3, maybe even 4 pieces from the latest newsletter. And the first story that jumped to my attention was major 800 million Bitcoin and crypto investor reveals the coming 4th cycle. We are, of course, talking about Andreessen Horowitz, the Silicon Valley venture capital firm, who have forecast that there's a 4th crypto cycle on the horizon, and that could potentially send the Bitcoin price sharply higher. Your thoughts?
Yeah, listen, Mark Andreessen, brilliant guy. I mean, he created Netscape browser back in the early days. He's been one of the tech pioneers that have been leading the space. And I sort of tuned in and I tapped into him early in Bitcoin. And so when I first got into Bitcoin, again, heard about it around 2011, as everyone else, dismissed it, blah, blah, blah. Come 2012, my ears are still perking up. I'm like, okay, there's something here. The moment I knew this was real was in 2013 when Mark Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z, those guys put 25 million into Coinbase. Talk about a brilliant move, and talk about someone who could see over the horizon and see what was coming. At that time in 2013, when they put 20, no one had any idea Coinbase was going to become a billion-dollar behemoth the way they are today. No one. He saw that. And so when I see this article and I understand that he's now saying we're going to the 4th cycle, I am all ears, and I am tuned in tightly to whatever Mark says, because that firm and what they put out, it's solid. And so I think what he's saying is true. I think we are on the cusp of our next major bull run.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, of course, Andreessen Horowitz, that they recently raised 515 million.
Crushing
it. It's unfathomable. How much is that? If you're looking at, how did they can, you're absolutely right. They can see, you can see why he's forecast this 4th crypto cycle.
Yep. Now let me
big.
Yeah, and here's the other thing that was mentioned in the article by Billy. And this is what I try to get people to understand. You can't put, 300 their first round, 500 their second round. You can't put that kind of money to work and not expect some impact. The question we should be asking is, what impact will that $515 million have on this space? The first 300 million had some impact. This next 500 million, a lot more impact.
Interesting, yeah, because if you think that first 25 brought forward Coinbase, yeah. And I think I remember reading that article about when they raised 300 million, and it was clearly stated it was for the long term. It's for 10 years. They're betting on crypto for the next 10 years. This isn't like we're putting it in the market now and expecting a quick return.
Correct. They really aren't. And the investors that are backing these companies, again, they're making ridiculous returns. And anybody that's paying attention to the crypto industry itself, if you're putting money in the right places, the returns you're seeing, you can't find them on earth anywhere else. It's mind-blowing.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on. The next story is from Being Crypto. Again, it's in your cryptocurator.com newsletter. Bitcoin is leaving banking stocks in the dust. So Bitcoin is outperforming the big 4 banking stocks by some way this year. It has outstripped JP Morgan, who are negative 32%, 37.2%, and that was the best performing bank by out of all of the big 4, by 300%. Banks have been historically anti-crypto, and this is further proof of Bitcoin decoupling from the US stock market. Your thoughts on that?
Exactly. And again, I was around. I remember Jamie making all the comments about Bitcoin and talking about how it was a scam and how no one was going to, how the government was going to crush it. But listen, and I'm sure he's paying attention now. As a matter of fact, he's paying really close attention. Why? The big news just came out that JP Morgan has now formed accounts for Coinbase and Gemini. Listen, as they always say, and I don't know the full axiom, but, first they, make fun of you, whatever, then they laugh, and, there's a whole deal. Over time, and this is what I try and tell people, that this is going to be and will remain the best performing asset on the planet. And so anyone who thinks you're going to find greater returns anywhere else, good luck. Not in this environment, because why? We're seeing the Fed out of control printing. We see, them not even handling this whole stimulus situation well at all. There's all kinds of problems with it. You can't just helicopter in money to people constantly at the end. Hyperinflation, deflation, we've got a lot of problems in the financial economy. The safest place to be is places like Bitcoin, gold, silver, precious metals, those types of things.
Absolutely. And that leads me to, the biggest news over the last few weeks was Paul Tudor Jones, the founder and chief executive officer of Tudor Investment Corp. He put together a list of the assets where he thinks that could work well in an inflationary period. He of course mentions gold. He mentions the Nasdaq, the yield curve, Goldman Sachs Commodity Index. But that letter that he put out to as his kind of keynote address to the company was all about Bitcoin.
It was. And here's what people have to tune into. Listen to the voices that are speaking now about this industry. Paul Tudor Jones, it's incredibly significant. Now, I have mentioned to folks, because when I first heard the news, I thought, oh my goodness, Paul has bought Bitcoin. And it sounds that way, but technically he hasn't. He has exposure to it through futures. And those futures are cash settled, because we don't yet have a physical settled Bitcoin futures, but that's coming. I believe we will see one day a physical settled product come to market. That being said, again, when you have the voices like Paul, and you have voices like Robert Kiyosaki, and even Mark Yusko and others, these voices are Raoul Pal. They're coming together and they're starting to tell people, listen, Novogratz said it, the herd is coming. It's time to get off zero. And if these people are not paying attention, I don't care what economic status you are, you can afford and buy Bitcoin. A lot of people try to say Bitcoin's too expensive. It's not. There's 100 million Satoshis in a Bitcoin, so you can buy one Satoshi. I don't care if it's even one Satoshi. It sounds ludicrous, but the reality is that one Satoshi could very well wind up being a lot of money in the future.
Absolutely. And look, you can't understate the fact that he's putting 2% of, that's a huge amount. If you're talking a huge amount that he's the custodian of for the company, then that is a huge amount. It's not only that. In the report, he describes Satoshi as a genius, or at least the halving, versus the great monetary inflation that he titled his paper.
Exactly, and this is what a lot of people miss about Bitcoin, is that if you read the white paper, and I'll be the first to tell you, I can't completely digest and understand everything that he talks about. But one thing is clear, a lot of thought went into this. This is not the first time this has been tried. It's been tried many times before. The common man probably wasn't paying attention to it, but many people have tried to make this sort of digital money, digital cash, and now we have it. And the system, it's foolproof. 13 years running almost, and guess what? No hacks on the actual code. Yes, there's been third-party hacks and things like that, but Bitcoin protocol has been secure and will remain secure, and trying to attack it is almost impossible.
Interesting. Yeah. He finishes his keynote or his note by saying, many are asking what will be the store of value winner in 10 years time. He's talking, that's why he's exposing himself. And that's why we're seeing this sea change. It's all about COVID-19, and it's all about the digitization of the world as we know it.
Yep. And like they said, COVID-19 was not the problem, it wasn't the issue. We've been having this issue for a long time in the financial markets. The United States, $25 trillion in debt. There are global economies all around the globe are in debt. It just can't keep going. And they continue to try to stop the natural cycle, boom bust cycle, and they're getting themselves deeper and deeper in water. The more they print this money, the worse off we become. They don't want us to feel the pain, but ultimately we will.
Absolutely. Okay. Next story, Cointelegraph. Will Bitcoin price plunge again as US-China trade war reignites? So from the Cointelegraph, it says the US and China are on the verge of a new trade war triggered by the coronavirus. Donald Trump warns that he may walk away from a recently signed phase 1 trade deal as, quote, it doesn't feel the same. A pullback could be on the cards if there is a full-scale trade war, as China accounts for 62% of all on-chain Tether inflow. Chinese investors make up for a large share of the global Bitcoin market. Historical data suggests geopolitical risk leads to a severe Bitcoin pullbacks. Your thoughts on that?
You know, when it comes to these pullbacks, and how we equate certain things to the pullback, will it be a US-China trade war that causes us to pull back? Some say it, and the reason some of them say it is because there is a lot of exposure in China when it comes to digital assets. I believe in that article it mentioned that the Chinese market have a lot of exposure to Tether. And as anybody in the crypto world knows, that most of the time investors will go into Tether waiting for the market to either have a pullback so that they can buy in more easily, because trying to go from fiat to Bitcoin or fiat to any digital asset can be tough due to regulations and timing issues. But if you have your money in Tether, then you can easily stay within crypto and just transfer in and out. And so they think that the Chinese market has a lot of exposure to Tether, and that if they were to, again, sell off Bitcoin, move into Tether, and as that number rises, that's potentially what could be happening due to some of these geopolitical conflicts of that nature. Right now, the market is in a weird place. I tweeted this morning to someone, I said, I think something about to happen because, again, we saw, if you're familiar with candlestick trading, we saw a doji candle yesterday, which is indecision. And so far today, we're having another doji candle. The last time we had these multiple doji candles, I think the market, of course, went up. It doesn't always mean that it's going to go up, but there is still this bullish sentiment and feel behind the market right now. There are those that still say we can go to 1,000, which seems a little outlandish, but who knows? This is Bitcoin. Anything can happen.
Yeah, actually, that's Ross Ulbricht.
Yes.
He also says it's going to go to 333 million.
Yeah, like I said, this is crypto, right? We could go either way, right? It's unbelievable.
That's going to be a ride. Okay, last story, a little bit less geopolitical. Silica activity. If prices surge after paying users to tweet about it. That's in Decrypt. So Singapore-based blockchain platform Silica launched a social pay campaign. It paid Twitter users, Zil, to tweet about it during a 72-hour period last week. The metric site Lunar Crush reported significantly increased activity for Silica as a result. This isn't the first time this has happened, of course. PayPal's early referral program, dubbed a legendary growth hack, generated immense daily growth at a cost of $20 per user, $10 for each referrer and new user. And that helped PayPal become a financial services juggernaut. First of all, your thoughts on the Silica campaign. And secondly, do you think this is something other companies will be looking at to do likewise?
Yeah, I mean, hey, good on Silica, right? They were smart enough to use this tactic, and it worked. You know, listen,
timing,
paying people for action, I think is something that, so I was once told that if you ever want to change user behavior or have any type of an impact, you need to find out what would motivate someone to take a required action. And so Silica probably understood that if we offer Silica to users to tweet about this or to share our content, it's going to happen. And you see that throughout social media. Even the influencers, right? That's why they get compensated, because they're spreading the message of a particular brand or item. So I think it was smart on Silica to pick that up. what I find interesting, though, is that it doesn't always work, though. There are some companies that can come out and offer the exact same thing, and the market, for the most part, goes, nah, we don't care. So with Silica, I think that they have had good marketing in the past. I think it's a good project. I believe it's Unstoppable Domains who built their platform on the Silica blockchain. So when you see that there's a legitimate project and there is some push behind it and they get the right people, I'll tell you this. Have you ever read the book Tipping Point?
No, who is it by?
It's by Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, yeah, I read his other book.
And so he talked about this, hush puppies. The story about hush puppies in his book was fascinating because he said, there are a lot of shoes out there. Why did hush puppies take off? And it's because they had the right group of people who actually began to talk about hush puppies and push that. And so it's like you said, it's a timing. They found the right timing. They found the right mix of people, influencers, so forth, so on. And then all of a sudden, boom, you have this deal. You hit that tipping point and it just goes viral. So good for them doing it. I think, yes, more companies might follow that lead. I believe Matthew Aaron talked about this on one of his podcasts. And I think Ty Smith also talked about it on Coinbound about paying for attention, basically. And again, basic attention token, sort of getting rewarded for your attention. I think it's where we're going.
Interesting. Okay. Well, to conclude, what excites you most right now in the space? What really kind of interests you?
What interests me right now is DeFi. I'm sure you've heard that it's been a big buzzword. And here's the reason why, and I told people this before, I believe we're seeing the entire, and I do mean the entire financial infrastructure being rebuilt on top of blockchain. It blows my mind to see companies like BlockFi and Celsius offering the percent that they're offering on digital assets right now, because if you go to any bank, what are you going to get? 0.01% or basically nothing. And sometimes they're talking about going negative. So you're able to put money in a place where you hold the asset and the asset continues to grow and you get paid interest on it. For people, I tell anybody holding, and again, this is not financial advice, but if I was holding $10,000 in a savings account, there's no way I'd have it in a bank. I'd have it on one of these platforms because I'm going to have that 10,000 sitting there, continue growing for me, and I'm going to get interest on it. And I can take a loan on it. You can do so many things now with digital assets that you would normally do at a bank. I think it was Jack Dorsey that said what? He said, listen, you can stop your trips to the bank. You know why? Because Square Cash is now going to give you the ability to earn, not earn interest with that one, but basically you can take and get your paycheck into the Square Cash app because now they have an account number and a routing number. You can actually stack sats with that and you can pay people with it. You can pay, they're eventually probably going to turn on bill pay. You can do so many things with just the Square Cash app. Why do you need a bank or need to make trips to the bank? You don't.
Wow. It really is. We're the wave, we're at the peak. You can feel it. It's coming. Look, listen, it's been great speaking to you today. I am going to, if I need to sign up, I'm going to get that newsletter every day. Very informative. I don't know how you get all the time to do it. You boil it so much into one big long page, and there's just, it's great. It's absolutely brilliant. Tell us, anybody watching, where we can find you and all of that kind of information.
Sure. The easiest way to find me and connect with me is on Twitter at _crypto curator. I live on that platform. I've also have made a home on Keybase as well. And if folks haven't tried out Keybase, they really should. It sort of combines everything all into one, but it's a great platform. And the same thing, actually on Keybase, there was a little bit of funny story there because I misspelled it, but it's Crypto Curator, not Crypto Curator. So
Crypto Curator. Thank you. Well, thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we'll get you back on again, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Indeed. Same here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.